For years, raised beds have been sold as the ultimate gardening solution. Build a box, haul in soil, spend money on timber, and suddenly you're a serious gardener. I followed that path too, but over time, something didn't add up. Despite the cost and effort, my harvests weren't dramatically better, and the soil still needed constant attention. That's when I stepped back and looked not at modern trends, but at how people grew food successfully long before lumberyards, landscape fabric, and bagged soil existed. What I discovered changed the way I garden forever. This ancient growing method doesn't just match raised beds, it quietly outperforms them while building healthier soil year after year. If you care about growing more food with less effort, this is where you stop building raised beds and start working with the land beneath your feet. Raised beds aren't inherently bad, but they come with limitations we don't talk about enough. They isolate plants from the living soil ecosystem below. Roots hit a hard boundary, water drains too quickly, and nutrients must be constantly added from the outside. Over time, the soil inside raised beds often becomes compacted, dry, and dependent on inputs. Most importantly, raised beds treat soil as something static, a container to fill, rather than a living system that can regenerate itself. Ancient growers understood that soil isn't just a medium for roots, it's an entire underground world that, when left intact, works harder than we ever could. Long before raised beds, people practiced a method now known as in-ground regenerative gardening, sometimes called sunken beds, deep soil planting, or natural beds depending on the region. This approach relies on improving the soil in place instead of replacing it. Instead of building up, ancient growers went slightly down. They loosened the soil deeply, layered organic matter directly into the ground, and allowed plants to root freely into the earth. The result was deeper root systems, better moisture retention, and a self-feeding soil structure that improved every season. This method has been used across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East for centuries, especially in dry climates where water conservation meant survival, and it's exactly why it works so well today. The biggest advantage is root depth. When plants can send roots downward without hitting an artificial barrier, they access more nutrients and moisture. This makes them more resilient to heat, drought, and inconsistent watering. Deep roots also mean stronger plants that produce longer and more consistently. Another reason yields increase is soil biology. When you stop isolating soil in boxes, you invite earthworms, fungi, and beneficial microbes back into the system. These organisms break down organic matter, transport nutrients to plant roots, and improve soil structure naturally. Raised beds often starve this underground workforce. Moisture retention is another quiet benefit. Slightly sunken or level beds collect water instead of shedding it. Organic matter buried in the soil acts like a sponge, holding moisture exactly where plants need it. In hot climates, this alone can double productivity. One of the myths about in-ground growing is that it requires endless digging. It doesn't. Start small. Choose one area and loosen the soil deeply using a fork or hoe. You're not turning the soil over, you're opening it up. This preserves soil layers while allowing air and water to move freely. Next, incorporate organic material directly into the soil. Compost, dry leaves, kitchen scraps, manure, or crop residues all work. This isn't about perfection. It's about feeding the soil organisms that will do the real work. Once planted, go ahead and cover the soil with organic mulch. This protects moisture, regulates temperature, and prevents erosion. Over time, that mulch actually becomes soil, and, well, the cycle just keeps going. Many longtime gardeners quietly move away from raised beds, not because they failed, but because they plateaued. Raised beds produce well at first, then require increasing effort to maintain the same results. In-ground regenerative beds do the opposite. They start modest, and, honestly, just keep improving every season. Soil becomes darker, looser, and more fertile. Weeds decrease as the soil balances itself. Pest pressure drops because healthier plants resist damage better. This is the kind of system that really rewards patience instead of constant intervention. At Soilpower, we focus on methods that respect soil as a living partner. This ancient growing approach fits perfectly with that philosophy. It doesn't rely on expensive materials or complicated systems. Instead, it relies on understanding how soil works and, just letting nature handle what it's always done best. Whether you're growing vegetables, fruit trees, or staple crops, this method scales beautifully. It works in small home gardens and large plots alike. And honestly, once you experience soil that improves instead of degrades, it's really hard to go back. This isn't about rejecting raised beds completely. It's about realizing they're not the pinnacle of gardening. They're really just a stepping stone. The real transformation happens when you stop building containers and start building soil. If you want more food, stronger plants, and a garden that gets better every year instead of more demanding, this ancient method is definitely worth embracing. It's simple, proven, and honestly perfectly suited to modern challenges like water scarcity and poor soil health. If this article helped you see gardening differently, go ahead and subscribe to the Soilpower YouTube channel for more practical, soil-first growing methods that actually work. Share this with a fellow gardener who's tired of expensive raised beds and ready to grow smarter. The soil already knows what to do. We just have to let it.